All right, guys, I am going to address the concept of heart rate and doing my very best. I gotta clean up the screen. It's kind of crazy. Uh, anyways, let's address heart rate right now. When we're talking about heart rate, we are referring to how we measure the intensity, in particular, of aerobic, also known as cardiovascular, also known as cardiorespiratory exercise. So those titles all mean the same thing, and it's basically a way to exercise your heart and lungs. All right, and how efficient the heart and lungs are at moving oxygen around. So we need to measure your intensity to make sure that you are staying within ACSM, American College of Sports Medicine, and the CDC, Center for Disease Control guidelines for respiratory or aerobic conditioning. So if we look here, all healthy adults ages 18 to 65 should participate in moderate intensity aerobic physical activity for a minimum of 30 minutes, 5 days a week, or 150 minutes total, or vigorous intensity for a minimum of 20 minutes, 3 days per week. So the key terms is the moderate intensity and the vigorous intensity. So how do you measure that? How do we know how intense someone is working? Well, fortunately, we can do that very easily through measuring their heart rate. And I will tell you about that in a minute. There it is. All right. And there is a plethora of articles and information out there right now on heart rates. So we're going to talk about first determining your maximum heart rate. So this is a very easy to read article from Shape Magazine. So first thing you want to determine is what is your maximum heart rate. And then once you get that, you then will be able to determine your training heart rate zone, which is a percent of your max. So right off the bat, you need to understand there are different formulas for determining your target heart rate or your maximum heart rate. We're keeping it simple with the 220 minus your age. There are other formulas out there that take into effect your resting heart rate, but that is not our objective here for this class. Our objective is to just trying to get you to understand basic concepts of perceived exertion and heart rate calculations. So once you get your heart rate determined, your maximum heart rate, you'll need to determine your zones. And we did the math on that, and it's basically just multiplying it by the percentage. So what are the heart rate zones and why are they broken down here? So active recovery, if we have somebody who, and the best example I can give you would be I've got my cross-country runner, they run hard on Saturdays because Saturdays are their competition days. So when they run on Saturday, they are in active recovery, they're working hard, and Sunday comes and Monday comes, I want them to take it easy. I still want them to train, but I don't want them to train at, 85, 90% of their max. I want them to train in a recovery mode. And that would be at a rate of 50 to 60% of their maximum heart rate. So if I have a 20-year-old cross-country runner and he comes in and on Sunday, Monday, he wants to do a recovery workout. We slap a heart rate monitor on him, or he does his own heart rate. And we said, okay, Jacob, you are only allowed to train at 120 to 110 beats per minute in your workout. So that's an easy jog, right? Just easy jogging. We don't want to work that hard any harder than recovery rate. So this is where you see that 50 to 60%. Then we bump it up a little bit more for endurance. So, and this is what we want most of our population, in zone 2, 3, and 4 in particular. These would fall under that moderate intensity. So I know that Mrs. Jones, who is whatever age she is, I can't do math that quickly. She's out there, and let's say her maximum heart rate is, shouldn't be more than 150. and she comes in and she wants to do her 5 30-minute walking sessions, I'm going to try and keep her maybe at 60 to 70% of her max, because I know that will help with her heart, the endurance side of it. And also bonus points here, it helps decrease her insulin resistance. So again, if Mrs. Jones is overweight, or maybe she's pre-diabetic, I know training at this rate is going to help her. Then we bounce it up to where we're getting into the zone 3. Again, this is performance, looking, again, more at these athletes, back to the athletes. But again, we have vigorous intensity. And if you remember back to that article I already talked about, the CDC and ACSM says, 3 sessions at 20 minutes of vigorous intensity is good. It's okay. So this would be like, and we're going to bounce down here to zone 4, the high intensity stuff. So these right here, or this zone 3 and zone 4, 70 to 90% of their maximum heart rate is how I would be training them in a HIIT class, or even a good old fashioned low impact class. This is where I want to get them. If I worked at the orange zone in Westlake, this is what I would be trying to work my athletes or my clients into that orange zone. Again, assuming they were healthy adults. And then you'll see back here, the final zone is your maximum effort. So yeah, it exists. You sometimes need to train people at 90 to 100% of their max. It has to happen sometimes. When I'm working with a football player, the average length of a football play is 7 seconds. The guy on the line, the offensive defensive lineman, they are going all out hard maximum for 7 seconds. So I'm going to work him that way. My volleyball player, who's the blocker, there's nothing half of what she's doing when she's blocking that ball. She's up, blocking, hitting. So again, there are certain individuals that need to be trained at maximum effort so their heart can be very efficient at executing. So those are just the kind of the breakdowns of the heart rates and the zones. Now, we have charts that make life a little bit easier. So here's a nice little chart where they've taken those, the heart rate and your age. And look, they even just put this one as a HIIT training. So if you're doing a HIIT training, you want to be working, I would say 80 to 90%. And they address it with different topics. Let's see here. What else do we have? There's another chart that I found that was very similar to that. Oh, here's a whole load of them. So again, we're looking here. This is another little heart rate chart. You can see right here, 60 to 90 would be inactive. 100 to 120 would be improving your health zone, your fitness zone, your performance zone. So you can kind of see here, all these charts that are available to you that you can easily, just buy a chart or make a chart and hang it up in your exercise class and say, here's your age and here's your percent that's required. Look it up and you want to be in those zones. All are fine. They're just looking at it from a different perspective. All right, so now we're going to talk about the perceived exertion piece. Borg's perceived exertion. Again, just kind of sending this home a little bit. So again, we know 200 maximum heart rate, 200 beats per minute maximum heart rate. So here we go. There it is. There's your 200. So pretend like you add a 0 at the end of every one of these numbers. That'll give you 60 beats per minute to 200 beats per minute. And that is your heart rate. So we know if you're just sitting there watching this video right now and you take your heart rate, it should be between 60 and 80 beats per minute. That is an average resting heart rate for an adult. If you are a cross-country runner, or I'll even say a soccer player, soccer players, cross-country players, those ultra endurance types of athletes, if you were to have them wake up in the morning and take their heart rate right away, these kids are like at 32 beats per minute. Okay, they have very efficient hearts, and that's beyond our scope of discussion right now, is training that level of athlete and trying to get those heart rates down. But we do want our heart rates at a lower level, and it's less wear and tear in your heart. It's kind of like the mileage factor, right? It's more efficient. This kid who has 32 beats per minute, he can, in 32 beats, he can move his blood around as efficiently and effectively as somebody with 80 beats per minute. Okay, so that's just kind of to give you some idea there. So again, we're looking at this chart, yellow, what are you, 120 beats per minute. Orange zone, there's our orange zone again, right? So we're working hard. you're definitely going to get that moderate to that high intensity scorecard there. And then we go over here. Again, what they've taken is, because 6 to 20 is kind of hard for people sometimes to kind of grasp that concept, but we know scales 1 to 10. 1 meaning very light effort, gentle walking, maybe watching TV, a little more effort than sleeping. And then we have max effort is 10. So that's that, coming off the line and tackling somebody kind of effort, or going up and hitting a volleyball as hard as you can. So here is the scoring system for that. So I hope this helped everybody understand a little bit better. Again, your goal is just to get them moving. We can go, this is a 10-hour, 8 to 10 hour course. And your job is to get people moving and to motivate people to get moving. You want to be aware of heart rate. You want to encourage them to take heart rate and kind of tune into it. You can do the talk test also. Can they carry on a conversation easily? If they can, they need to push themselves a little bit harder. Could they barely talk when they're exercising? They're pushing themselves too hard. So there are just some ideas there. Any questions or concerns, bring them up in class next time. But I just wanted you to see the big picture here.